Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, hundreds of Sub-Saharan African migrants have been attacked or made homeless in Tunisia after a racist presidential speech last week. Guinea sends a plane to repatriate some of its nationals, and other countries are set to follow suit. Also, whilst in Gabon on a tour of Central Africa, France's president pledges 50 million euros to compensate countries crucially looking after the world's forests. But Emmanuelle Macron's trip also sparks protests and accusations of hypocrisy in DR Congo. And in Burkina Faso, the creativity celebrated at FESPACO, Africa's biggest film festival, is also matched by talks of cash, how to raise it, where to invest it, and how to make it. We hear from our correspondents on the ground. Now, Guinea has begun repatriating its citizens from Tunisia after racist remarks by Tunisian President Kais Saied last week triggered a wave of evictions and violent attacks on Sub-Saharan migrants living in the North African country. Late on Wednesday, a state-sponsored flight took 49 Guineans back to the capital, Conakry, where they were greeted by the head of the military junta, Colonel Doumbouya. Other countries are also looking to repatriate their citizens. For more on this, we hear from our Sam Bradpiece, who's in Dakar.
Some of the migrants who were flown back to Guinea late on Wednesday night complained of having been attacked with knives and machetes while in Tunisia. Reporting from my France 24 colleague on the ground in Tunisia suggests that other migrants have had their homes sacked and that some have been detained by Tunisian authorities. The intensification of racist violence in Tunisia follows a speech last week by the country's president, who said that illegal migration to the North African country was part of a plot to replace the Arabic population with a black African population. It's in this context that the Ghanaian government has been organising expatriation of its citizens in Tunisia. Here's what the Ghanaian foreign minister had to say.
We were able to find 181 people. The others are on their way to the embassy, but today we were able to transport 49 of them. The president said it's unacceptable that any Ghanaian should suffer abroad.
NGOs estimate there are more than 20,000 Sub-Saharan African migrants living in Tunisia. Ivory Coast has also chartered planes to bring some of its citizens home. Outside the Ivorian embassy in Tunisia this morning, some of those migrants told France 24 that they too were facing extreme hostility.
The landlord kicked me out of my apartment. And then, when I was walking to the shop, a bunch of Tunisians attacked me, even though I'm 4 months pregnant. They threw stones at me and my sister and said, "Ivorians, go back to your country."
It's abhorrent to kick out other Africans in such a way.
It's really sad. I was really comfortable here. I was happy, and I had no problems. It hurts to have to go back this way.
The foreign affairs ministries of other countries, like Mali, for example, have advised migrants living in Tunisia to exercise extreme caution in light of recent events.
Sam Bradpiece there for us. Now, the runner-up in Nigeria's presidential election says that last weekend's exercise was grossly flawed. Atiku Abubakar of the PDP came second with 29%, behind President-elect Bola Tinubu of the ruling APC party. Abubakar says the results must be challenged by all and that he's consulting with lawyers. Now, several oppositions says that the vote was rigged. Third-place candidate Peter Obi got 25%. He says that he's exploring legal options and will present evidence in court that he actually won the election.
This election, as you know, did not meet the minimum standard expected of a free, transparent, credible, fair election. It will go down as one of the most controversial elections ever conducted in Nigeria. The good and hard-working people of Nigeria have again been robbed.
Well, whilst in Gabon, France's president pledged 50 million euros to a plan to financially compensate countries for protecting their forests and biodiversity on behalf of the world. Emmanuelle Macron was in Gabon on Thursday for a summit on the preservation of the world's forests. It was also the start of his 4-country tour of Central Africa at a time of particularly high anti-French sentiment in some former colonies. On Thursday, Macron insisted that the days of French interference in African affairs was over. Earlier this week, he announced a reduction in his country's troops on the continent. Now, despite his reassurances, African mistrust of Macron's intentions remain. Young demonstrators have staged a few anti-French protests in DR Congo this week. Macron's due there this weekend on his last stop of his trip to the region. On Thursday, protesters headed to the French Institute in Goma, accusing France of supporting Rwanda. The UN says that Kigali supports M23 rebels fighting in the east of DR Congo, and France's Congolese critics accuse Macron of hypocrisy.
France is a country that supports Rwanda, and Rwanda is attacking us. We want to show the French that we disagree with their hypocritical policy and this support of Rwanda. That's why we're burning their flag.
We've had enough of what they are doing to our country. We are suffering and we are determined. We don't want to see the French president in our country.
Well, M23 rebels continue to fight in the DR Congolese province of North Kivu this week, past an agreed withdrawal deadline. The town of Mweso has been seized and clashes broke out not far from the provincial capital of Goma. Now, it's already become a hub for the displaced. Our correspondent tells us more.
A steady stream of people. Women and children carrying jerry cans for fetching water. Others, mattresses and other larger items. Days after the M23 rebel group captured the town of Mushaki in eastern DRC, hundreds of people from nearby towns are still making their way to Goma, the main city in the area, which is still under government control.
We come from Sake. We're fleeing because of the M23 war, from which we're all suffering. That's why we decided to flee now. We're coming here to save our lives. We saw the rebels take all the hills around Sake, like Kingi, Luhonga, Malehe, Kahumba. The enemy now controls these areas. That's why we left.
Sake lies only around 20 kilometers from Goma. It sits on the road from Mushaki, the village that was retaken last week, and the provincial capital. A city of over 1 million people, Goma is already home to tens of thousands of internally displaced people. Sake is one of the last remaining trade links for Goma, which lies on the border with Rwanda. As the rebels continue to make progress in the region, seizing agricultural areas and severing supply lines, prices of everyday goods have soared in Goma. In remote towns, the situation is even more critical. On Monday, the UN said it was suspending flights carrying aid in eastern Congo. The announcement came after a World Food Program helicopter came under heavy fire last week close to Goma.
Well, Africa's biggest film festival is still in full swing. FESPACO is a celebration of the continent's cinema, but also a chance to sell and buy content. International buyers scour the market for titles and share industry know-how and innovation. Our team were there and sent us this report.
FESPACO is about culture and entertainment, but also business. Every 2 years, it creates a hub for professionals from across the continent. They come to buy and sell movies, talk promotion, kits, and funding. The economics of filmmaking is at the heart of the festival. Hassan Fall owns an audiovisual equipment business based in Dakar. He's keen to see more investment in African filmmaking.
In cinema, the main hurdle we face is financing. There's not enough money coming in, and that includes private investors. We're really not there yet.
Fatou Kande Senghor is a Senegalese producer. She's worked in the region for years and believes that creating more diverse TV content would be a lucrative move for the sector.
As much as it is a creative industry, it is an industry. And if you use the word industry, you are talking about income. If TV is alive and well, it makes fabulous stories exist, but also great technicians work and have some income and progress. And that is what TV series is doing to African productions nowadays.
The film industry employs 5 million people and generates $5 billion in revenue. The UN's cultural organization, UNESCO, reckons that amount could be quadrupled if the industry were better structured.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa. Thanks very much for joining us. Do stay with France 24, though. We'll have a short break and more news and headlines from around the world will be coming up. In the meantime, you can always check out more of our content by heading online, where we have a robust option available. But for now, that's it for me. Join us again when you can. Take care.
They observe. They contact us. They report, film, photograph. They are the voice of the voiceless. Your eyes in the far-flung reaches of the world. The Observers, a network of 5,000 committed citizens working with France 24.
One of our observers in Côte d'Ivoire, Gaspard.
Amateur footage and testimonials checked by our journalists and broadcast weekly on The Observers, on France 24 and observers.france24.com.
И я, значит, мы уже подъезжаем, и я смотрю на какого-то парня, он тоже на меня смотрит, и мы просто начинаем плакать оба. Вот. И у него слезы, и у меня слезы, и как-то это был такой важный момент.
Я сейчас не делю совершенно точно людей на тех, кто за и кто против, потому что я понимаю, что даже тот, кто находится по другую сторону баррикад, он все равно может быть для меня очень близок и ценен. Или могут быть совершенно разные причины, по которым они придерживаются других взглядов. Самый яркий пример, наверное, для меня это моя бабушка, которая...